and our scores aren't that far off. And as Kate said,
I was amazed that I was happier than him. I present myself sometimes kind of like a miserable pain in the butt. Hi, welcome to
Dream with Us.
I'm Kate.
I'm Joe.
So in the last episode, we talked about the Wheel of Life exercise that you can find in the Book of Five that we'll link in the description below. And what you'll be doing, if you want to go back and look at that video, you'll also see how to do this exercise with yourself, but we also encourage you to use this exercise with your partner. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be discussing how we rated each area in our Wheel of Life. So going back to what we're rating is we're rating family, career, health, financial, education, recreation, charitable, adventure, travel, romance, relationship, and spiritual on a scale of 1 to 7. Then what you'll do is you'll add all of your scores up and divide it by 12 to find out what your overall satisfaction in your life is currently. To make sure that your wheel of life is a little bit more balanced.
Yeah, and so you may be surprised where your score ends up. And my score was a 4.4. And so looking at the areas where I was most satisfied, that was family, romance, and relationships. And again, you're scoring these on a scale of 1 to 7. And so for family, I put a 6. And I put a 6 down because I do feel satisfied with my family relationships, my family dynamics, and certainly, you know, our relationship with our sons and my relationship with Kate and my siblings. You know, not that everything's perfect in any family, but for the most part. And I rated it a 6 because I think there's always room for improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I can always do better in relationships. And so that's kind of where I scored family. How about you?
I actually scored a 6 in family as well, but I have a different definition of what family looks like. For me, family is really direct family, and that's you and the boys and how we connect with one another. And I also consider family an extension of our friends. And so when I think of family, I think of those relationships and how I connect with those people, because those are the people in my life that I feel that I can lean on, not only emotionally, but like just an overall connection of feeling like these are the people that I know will always support and love me for who I am.
Yeah, and that's again a reminder that, you know, Kate and I did not compare and look at each other's answers before the video, and
And the
so
reason why we intentionally tell you to do this and why we did this is because very often in relationships, you are constantly trying to make the other person happy. And the reality is that you cannot make your partner happy. All you can do is make yourself happy. And if you are happy, inevitably your partner will also be happy because they are prioritizing their happiness and their well-being within their life, and then we are also being kinder to ourselves.
yeah, and this is not about being kind of self-centered or narcissistic or anything along those lines. It's about being fulfilled as a whole person yourself so that you can be there for other people in a real and meaningful way. And so, you know, we're not looking at just one thing in isolation. And so I think that's an important thing to consider. What was the next thing you scored?
The other thing that I scored really high was recreation,
Ooh.
because the last 2 years I have made a steady habit of going to pottery every Thursday night. And I may not make the best pottery in the world, even though Joe thinks they're amazing because he's supportive and
She's
kind
so
towards me.
talented.
But I have prioritized for the last 2 years making sure that I add fun in. And this also means that on Thursday nights, I don't take any meetings after 5 p.m. And I have told my boss, hey, I paid for this class. I am not missing out on it. And he respects that. So that is a big win for me.
Hmm. Yeah, and I scored recreation kind of lower on my scale. Um, and again, recreation can be defined in a lot of different ways. But since I just started taking the martial arts classes, that's a form of recreation, obviously, and I can still do much better in kind of devoting some time to that, and other activities too that I find interesting. I think again I think I can do better in those areas. So I scored kind of low in recreation. The one I scored my second highest was romance, and I put 6 down for that. So I don't know where she kind of where she kind of fell in with recreation with romance.
Romance.
Romance and recreation, they kind of go
Oh,
together.
recreational romance.
But
It's the next thing to be legalized.
yeah, huh? But I put it down as a 6 because I think we work on our relationship and our romantic relationship together, really intentionally and in the most positive way.
Mhm.
And I think again I could do better, and so I put a 6, and she probably wouldn't argue with that either.
No, I gave you a 7. You
So
know,
you gave romance a 7.
I gave romance a 7
Okay.
because I think and I think the other big thing that we always have to remember is that these are all fluid and it's a matter of where you put your energy. And if I take for granted that romance is a 7, then I assure you, if I do this exercise in a year, it will not be there. And I think one of the big things that we have um, prioritized in the last 6 months is romance and
Hmm.
communicating with each other and learning how how that gets interpreted, because I think one of the big things that we um, can fall into the trap of with romance is that we can think that the other person appreciates the way that we view romance, you know?
Right.
And so, like, for me, it was about like communicating um, how I like to be seen, how I'd like to feel in the moment.
Hmm.
And that once I kind of broke that down with you after like many long, hard conversations, I think it became very palpable in your head of like, oh, so all I have to do is really get out of my work zone, work mode head,
Hmm.
which that's the hard part for both of us because we do work a lot from home, that sometimes we forget to turn off the clock.
Hmm. Yeah, and so it's again interesting because we kind of in our approach to the assignment, the homework we gave ourselves here, we looked at these things in different ways, and our scores aren't that far off. And as Kate said,
I
you
was
know they
amazed that I was happier than him. I present myself sometimes kind of like like a miserable pain in the butt, but I think I'm just a slightly more emotional human being, so I have my highs and lows.
she's a much more whole person than I am. But I think that's part of these exercises, and it's kind of fun and enriching because we do communicate about these things. Even though this is the first time we're seeing each other's, scores on this, we've had these conversations in the past in different ways. And so, you know, I think family, romance were high on my list. And then I had a lot of scores that fell into the 5 range. And if I had to look at those kind of scores, I think the other area that I would say I would rank kind of satisfied is career. And even though that got a 5, I think in there are things that I would kind of shift about my kind of day to day in my career. I'm an educator, and I think I can do better. I can do better more efficiently, and I can what I think.
I think if anyone who is an educator out there also understands that there is no real way of making it more efficient, because every semester and every new year you have a whole new batch of challenges.
Yeah, that's true. And I think, I in our last video where we went over the vision boards, I had a yes and no in the sand with yes circled. And I think in my career, I actually have to circle no a little bit more. And so that's one reason why it scored a 5. It's kind of multi-layered because I think I can do better in my career, in my work, and improve, and want to do better in my work and improve. But I also think there are things that I can scale back or change, and be more effective and be more efficient. So
Well,
that
I
was
think
kind
it's
of.
also with how your career is, and anybody's career, there are components in your career that you like the most. And so I think what you are kind of grappling with is what areas in your career that you would like to put more of your energy towards,
Hmm,
and other areas do you want to scale back on. And so when you approach it in that way, you can also start really looking at the areas that produce more joy in your day to day, and how can you tap into that, you know? And
right, right. And so what did you have as your next highest score?
well, I think because I already did three things and you did the three things, we're done.
What were your 3 things?
Family,
Mm-hmm.
recreation, and romance.
Oh, so as you can see,
The communication is doing
the
great.
active listening.
Active listening while also being on camera is a piece of cake.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think the reality is that, you know, if you go back to our previous video, dive deeper into what our vision boards look like, use the templates that we have available for you, and start building on what areas are you feeling most satisfied in, and really take a deep look into it. Look at it individually, ask your partner to do the exact same exercise without too much prompting, without looking over their shoulder, and then allow yourself to have this type of conversation. Go back and forth and realize that we are living in this very fast paced world, and that very often we may not be even aware of what areas we think are the person's highest satisfied versus what we don't.
Right. And if you're interested in learning about what we're least satisfied in, the categories in our lives, tune in to our next episode, and that'll be linked somewhere here.
Here or there, maybe over here. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
In the meantime, dream with us.
Dream with us. Thanks again. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and all those things, because every time you help subscribe to our channel, you're helping us build our goals.
An angel gets their wings.
The wings. Yeah, there's a bell,
There's a
right?
bell.
Okay.